There we go. Let's get Facebook in here. We can start the show. Let's see if it works. We had Facebook issues on Monday, right? Dylan wasn't here, so I think I just gave up. Yeah. All right. Well, it's connected right now. Good to see everybody. It is Friday the 20th. Man, March is flying by. A little late, 6:36. We had a chit chat. I am Nick Kendall, joined by Eric Trickle. This is Broncos for Breakfast. Eric, good morning to you. How are you doing? How soon are you gonna be having that coffee? We're gonna get you there, man. I just one of these days. I won't let it go. I did a for work. We did this like personality assessment for like your strengths, the Clifton strength scores. Ugh, say that 10 times fast. And I am a positive woo. So I'm just gonna woo stands for winning others over. So we're gonna get there, man. Coffee, we need it. I think the whole like vibe in here. Let's put it this way. How much would it take to pay you a month to be a coffee drinker?
You don't have that kind of money.
I don't know. Let's just pretend this is a hypothetical.
So here's the thing. Even if I did drink coffee, I'm not drinking coffee at 4:00 in the morning
Because you go to bed afterwards.
because I go back and I go try to get a little bit
Mhm.
of get a little nap in between getting up
Yeah.
and having to be in school with the kid.
Yeah, you're right. Ah, it's so good though. Oh man, well I'm doing well right now. Can't start a show without Nick shoving coffee on us. I will also shove this on you guys. I had sushi last night. I'm on cloud nine. I had an unbelievable amount of sushi and a sake flight as well that went with it. So I had a pretty good evening. Eric, are you a sushi guy at all? I mean, Alaska, you got fresh fish. I'm not sure where you're at on that.
I absolutely love sushi.
Oh, God,
The
so
sushi place that we have actually here closed down. It was from it was a traditional sushi restaurant that somebody immigrated over from Japan and started, but they started having health issues and they closed. And I was so bummed about that. So we don't have a sushi place here anymore,
mm,
but I absolutely love it. But man, I have a hard time trusting sushi from most other places, especially somewhere
man.
like Colorado where the ocean's not right there. Um, so yeah, it's I've had sushi in Colorado before, and it wasn't great when I had it.
I went to the spot in Denver for sushi. I won't give them no free pub, but it's the place that if you're gonna have sushi in Denver, that's where you'll go. And it was great. I mean, I've had places in Seattle, obviously, that are as good, and I think they're more numerous. But it was good. It was a great time. Really enjoyed it. Also, I love sake. I've never really like, Japanese culture or whatever. I like some people like adore it. I have to go to Japan. I'd love to like go to the mountains in Japan, like Kyoto or something like that. But to go and for the food, I'd be all about that, and just different culture and everything. But good to see everybody's enjoying. I think this is for Jaylen Waddle. But we're going to pretend. I bet you Jaylen Waddle, whether it be the Penguin version or not, is a sushi fan. HDs comes in and says sushi is my favorite. I mean, nothing beats a perfectly prepared good cut of steak, in my opinion. But sushi is up there. And speaking of steak, Eric, we have not had much of a chance yet to talk about the Jaylen Waddle trade. I know that I thought about making that the title again today, but I don't know. I feel like maybe it's been a little hashed out. We'll have other iterations of that, but we have some relatively new news as well as changes in the scale for the Broncos in the draft after the trade as well. So, but first, floor is yours. Jaylen Waddle. I mean, there's a lot of talk of it last year leading up to the deadline. Denver had some competition, didn't happen. I think it was give credit to Zach Stevens. It sounds like if the trade deadline was like another hour long, it might have happened. It was like that kind of close. They just ran out of time, and he's here now. So Denver got a Z slot with speed and pairs so nicely to what they already have here. Now, top 5, top 10, no doubt receiver. I don't know, maybe, but top 15, top 20, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I prior to the trade deadline, I was wanting that to happen, and then I really bought into the fact that the Miami Dolphins felt he was a uh, building stone. I didn't think they were going to trade him. Heck, last Friday night I was talking about somebody had somebody in the chat coming in now saying a bunch of receivers. I'm like, no, Waddle's not happening. Like, so glad to be wrong. I'm a big fan of his game and what he brings to this Broncos offense. because he really enables Cortland Sutton a lot more. He's going to draw some of that safety attention because of what he can do vertically. He can help out, Marvin Mims or Pat Bryant or even Troy Franklin in the slot, again, because of what he can do vertically. I do wonder what they're going to do with the wide receiver room going forward. I would, at this moment, I expect a wide receiver trade come August, like similar to Devon Bailey last year. Troy Franklin is the one on watch on that, and everybody knows that I'm sour on Troy Franklin, but this has absolutely nothing to do with that. It's looking at the skill sets inside the room. What Troy Franklin bring was completely upgraded in with getting more and Jaylen Waddle. So Troy Franklin seems to be the odd man out, but we'll see. Marvin Mims is another option. I think his all-pro returner ability keeps him viable for Denver, but he is in that last year of his contract, so that's an option. I just don't know who they're returning at kicks after that.
It'd be somebody in the draft. They'd draft somebody if that was the.
They'd have to. Like if they do draft somebody, then Marvin Mims on that trade watch goes way up. But right now it seems to be Troy Franklin. But I'm glad. I like what I don't think Denver overpaid per se. I do think it was a little bit more than what you would normally like see in this kind of trade. But the Bills with DJ Moore, they just kind of screwed up all wide receiver trades, giving a second for him, as well as what they did with the contract. Waddle, a lot younger, right? So that plays a factor into it. And his contract is structured a lot differently. Miami was having to eat a lot more dead money. So I think it's more than a fair trade. And it was funny. After the trade, I saw a lot of Miami Dolphins reporters and fans talk about, oh, his durability is not great. It's like he's only missed like 7 or 8 games. And then they were talking about it's not the games that he missed, it's the amount of time that he missed in games that he played. This is a guy who averages over 70% of the snaps in a game, which is actually pretty darn good throughout his career outside of, 2023, I think, when he missed 3 games with injury. That was the only time he wasn't in the top 35 for wide receivers in the snap count percentage in the year. So he's still way up there in snap counts, and injuries happen, and it's a rotated position. He's not missing a lot of time for that. He's just part of the rotation there in Miami, and he could have been getting a lot more, but he wasn't the top guy for them. It was Tyreek Hill, and he thrived in that, and he has a situation to thrive again as a number 2 receiver.
He was also used a lot. I don't want to use the word. I feel like it's overplayed, but like sacrificial X, if that makes sense to some to folks at home, where he was utilized with the tougher assignment, and whether it be space clearing or just like space clearing vertically or horizontally, to free up Tyreek Hill a lot of times because Tyreek's the number 1. So they would use him. I mean, he was taken on press, which for a 5'9" guy is pretty unheard of. You don't really see that often. So I think he's going to get uncovered a lot more in this scheme. And that is going to open him up. I mean, I know that, people will have their opinions about Cortland Sutton and just how good he is and whatnot, but like he is a true blue X beat guys at the line of scrimmage, ISO ball winner type. And that's like Waddle did fine there, and not necessarily ball winner, but like the X. And I think he's gonna fit a lot better with where Denver has him slotted. I know that positional wide receiver roles have blurred, tight end to running back, everything. We're not truly in a positionalist football era, but lines are blurred. But I think he's gonna fit really well. And one thing you didn't mention, which everybody knows, but I just have to emphasize because it's one of my one-arm man. I have to bring it up all the time, but explosive plays. He should help. The offense was already pretty good with explosive plays last season in the pass game, but a lot of it was, I don't want to take away from the players, but like a lot of the explosive plays down the field were Sean Payton in his bag. I mean, let's just kind of call it what it is on that one. So, I'm excited to see Jaylen Waddle and offer some explosiveness because there is just so much value to explosiveness. And the dog's licking his foot in case that looks disgusting in the background there. Summit, can you knock it off? Come here. Come get your sloth. Get your sloth. There you go. Good job. That was a foot. He's not like that kind of guy. Keith coming in here. Good morning. Good to see you. Dave also just listening today, not feeling well. So have a great show. Well, good to have you. Hope you're feeling better. Nugmaster, you think Sean Payton might be planning to retire after this year? Losing Vance and Davis Mills after giving up play calling for a year. I feel like he might pass the torch to Mills and retire / assistant head coach. I mean, life changes. I don't know if there's anything going on with him right now, but I would expect the answer to be no on this one. It would be pretty shocking, but things change and we don't know what everything what everyone's dealing with. So it would be somewhat surprising to me, but things happen.
Yeah, I think you mean Davis Webb, obviously the new
Yes.
play caller.
Yeah. I'm like, I was
And
reading, I was like, Davis Mills. Mills is my
yeah,
son's name. That's wrong. Okay, yeah, Webb. Yes.
um, again, as Nick said, things can change. I don't think Peyton has any plans to retire anytime soon. I think we're probably talking about him coaching the Broncos for 5 to 10 years at least from this point on, barring anything extreme happening where, something medical comes up that basically forces him into retirement, or things fall off the rails completely and he ends up getting fired. Like, as well as things continue to go as they have, he'll be coaching the Broncos for a while. I don't expect a retirement out of him anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man. It would be a bummer if it happened. We'll see what happens with Webb, but we'll keep an eye on it for sure. And if there's any whispers there, we'll let you guys know. But I would say that would be, I would take the odds against that happening, Eric. And if you're interested in betting at all, you might want to check out our friends over at Underdog.
Yeah, the tournament is back. The upsets are inevitable, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action. Not on Underdog yet? Then you're in luck because new customers score $50 in bonus entries when you play your first $5.
Exactly. Playing on Underdog is so easy. Just pick whether players will go higher or lower on stats such as points, rebounds, blocks. Get your picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. 5,000. You heard that right. Plus, there are new promos dropping every day in the app.
Yeah, Underdog is a lot of fun. You can download the app today and sign up with promo code MHuddle to score $50 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code MHuddle. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you all be next?
18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Heck yeah. Keith just chugged Monster Java Energy. I've done that on some road trips before. Speaking of road trips, Johnny Not Bravo coming in and says, "What's up, guys? Stoked for the show this morning. Long drive." Well, stay safe. And sorry about that with how expensive that is for you right now. Gosh, goodness. Yeah, things are hard to drive. I'm not looking forward to buying any summer flights right now. Tony, good to see you. Is that a bed in the background? Yeah, I'm in the guest room. We're in a townhouse, and just is what it is. We have a 2-year-old and a office that is open. And if the kid gets up, the office being open is not viable for audio quality. Let's just put it that way with a 2-year-old. So yes, it is. You can come hang out if you want. You have to snuggle Summit, but other than that, JB coming in here says can't start off a show without. Oh yeah, we got that one. Good to see you. Well, that deserves a sip of coffee. Ah, heck yeah. David Schlosser, good morning. Good to see you. Everyone leave these hardworking guys alike. Definitely been working hard. Good to see you, David. Thank you so much. Always coming in, giving us the shout out. Dave Glassman, appreciate you. Todd Ostendorf, good morning. Broncos for breakfast. Good to see you. Tony says breaking news. Rams called about Franklin and Mims. Dylan, maybe I'll have to put you on that to see if you can find that somewhere. Hasn't found it. Okay, well, thanks for the breaking news. Rams seem to be wanting to add wide receiver. Puka Nacua has been hurt a lot, and Adams is older and had some injuries as well. So they lack depth. Granted, 2 first-round picks. No, they don't. They only have 1 now because they traded for McDuffie. So we'll see. We'll see what happens here. Johnny Not Bravo asks, what do you think Waddle's stats will be in 2026? Thank you so much for the super chat, Johnny. What do you think, Eric?
I mean, it's tough because it's still so far in the future. I would say I think he at least gets back to 1,000-yard season. And I'd probably say 5 to 10 touchdowns, probably more on the lower end of that scale, but I think he gets over 1,000 yards again.
Yeah, I mean, I know that some people kind of really push the Troy Franklin, hype, counting the raw stats, but he was one of the least efficient wide receivers in football last season for the amount of targets that he got. Out of receivers who got 100 targets last season, there was only one who had less yards, and that was everyone's favorite Jerry Jeudy. But his yards per reception out of the all the receivers who had that many targets, he was fourth lowest in yards per reception. Now, he did have 6 touchdowns, and again, I'm not saying that he's bad or, not a viable wide receiver. Like, for a 4th-round pick, for what he did, like, dramatic hit for the Broncos last season, because they're paying him like nothing. I mean, did you see what freaking Romeo Doubs got on the open market? Yeah. Troy Franklin has real surplus value for this team, but I expect his target share to drop. Okay, I mean, for the 4th-round pick and how expensive wide receivers are, I'm happy about the ROI. But is he 100 targets a year kind of guy? Man, it's one of the top 27 wide receivers in football with that kind of target share. I don't think so. Or not, target share is proportional, but just overall targets, no. So I'm thinking Waddle with 100 targets in this offense with how much the Broncos throw the football as well. I don't think anybody's thrown the ball more the last 2 seasons. I think 1,100 is on the table for him. It's really going to be, like with anything, staying healthy. And 6 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns, very possible. I'm not expecting 4 players with 10 touchdowns like we saw with Peyton Manning, peak. I don't know if we'll ever see that again. But I am expecting a very good season for him. It's just going to come down to if he can stay healthy, more or less. And it will be rotational. He's also one that, because of his size, I just don't know if you want him being pelted with that load of targets. It's about efficiency. And what is he going to bring? He's a better deep threat than Franklin. Franklin, can get down there. It's a question of if he can track the ball and come down with it. But, on the distance, he can get down there. Mims as well. Actually, pretty good ball skills for Mims down the field. But I'm expecting the down the field options to be there. Waddle's been one of the best deep threats. The real question is going to be the middle of the field, intermediate stuff. And that's not a Waddle question. That's a Bo Nix question, because his heat map, it's not as, avoidant of the middle of the field as someone, say, like Jaylen Waddle. But he's definitely on probably the bottom 10, bottom 5 in middle field avoidance. And that's one reason I know, like, some people, like, Bo Nix is a check down merchant. Like, he throws a lot of deep balls, but like the intermediate middle of the field touch passes are very low in this offense. And that's a dangerous area. If you're playing a lot of 2 high shells, that's an area you kind of want to be able to try to hit sometimes. And it's chicken or the egg. Is it the wide receivers? Is it Bo Nix? Is it tight ends? Is it it's probably a little bit of everything, but that's an area that I'm going to be fascinated to follow this season. It's just that dynamic. And if they can really start to hit some of that intermediate, feathery touched middle of the field passes.
I mean, that's something that you and I, we've talked about with Nix for, even since before he was drafted to the Broncos, was the middle of the field stuff with him. And that's something that's got to change. That's on top of, besides adding, players to the offense, the weaponry, that was the one area where this offense could expand even more, was the middle of the field work, getting these guys a little bit more involved. And it, again, as you said, it's not just a Bo Nix issue. He's a large part of it, but it's not just as an issue with him. Some of it was the play calling, because, we started to see a little bit less of those routes over the middle of the field. But was that because of Bo Nix, or was that actually the play calling? The wide receivers, they have their own issues there. Evan Ingram didn't quite live up to expectations when kind of being that more middle of the field threat with his play. Pat Bryant, he did well in his limited opportunities there. Cortland Sutton has actually done well in the middle when he's had those opportunities. So that's something that Waddle also helps bring in. It helps with helps move the safeties around and shade the coverage away from Cortland Sutton. So those are all things that can translate to better play, working the intermediate levels of the field in the middle. But it just comes down to, will Bo Nix do it? And only time will tell. I mean, he made progress from a rookie year to a second year. Let's see if that can be the area where he progresses from year 2 to year 3.
It'll be big. I mean, the other one will be just, continue to grow as a rhythm pocket passer rather than, it's not there, go, which the sack, it's a, two-sided coin on that one, because that's some of the sack avoidance, which is his superpower. But also you're probably leaving some vertical kill shots on the field when you're doing that as well. So again, but year 3, Bo Nix, really excited to see it. Thank you so much, Johnny, for the super chat, 199. It helps us a heck of a lot. Todd's asking, I'm curious about the depth chart going to be with Waddle now on the team. Is there a loser in this trade? I think the loser is probably Mims/Franklin overall. I mean, maybe nobody is a loser, and it's really nice to have depth. But is Troy Franklin, again, is Troy Franklin going to be a 100 target player again this year? No, unless there's an injury. But no, you're probably talking 60, maybe at that. I mean, there's only so many balls to go around, right? So probably would imagine Franklin / and maybe Mims becomes completely relegated to special teams. I mean, I don't know. It's pretty crowded right now. I don't think Pat Bryant or little Jordan Humphrey necessarily lose because they're very different than Waddle, and we know how kind of Sean Payton likes to have his options, right? Like he wants to play his grass type Pokemon or his water one or electric, right? Like you got a similar type with Waddle compared to Mims and Franklin to some extent. And Max comes in and asks, how much would Mims or Franklin be worth in a trade? I'm guessing with the 2 years of control, I would be looking for something the equivalent of a late 3 for Franklin, considering what he's shown. With Mims, I'm probably thinking similar range, but slightly less, just because he just has 1 year of control left. And I think the contract is harder with his escalators. I think he's $6 million this year, so it's just harder to absorb. So I'm hoping the value of, not exactly that pick, but the value of a late 3 for Franklin and probably an early 4 for Mims.
Yeah. I mean, and when we talk about value, it doesn't mean getting that exact pick for it.
Exactly.
In the case of a value of a late 3, that is something that it could be a 2 4th-round picks, a 4th in a future year that has conditions on it. That could even drop it down to a 5th or raise it up to a 3rd until you get that 3rd. But that's kind of what you're talking about with the value of a late 3rd or something like that, or even a conditional 5th that can rise up to a 4th for Franklin. And Mims, I could probably see something pretty similar to that. Just he does have that 1 year less of cost control, but returning is becoming such an important aspect of the game that I think that what he does there, both as a punt returner and a kick returner, kind of makes up for that value, and that teams can, what's the way to put this? Being a return specialist as him, that's what they're going to pay him as, isn't overly expensive, right? We're probably talking $7-8 million on top end deal right now for a return specialist player. So that's not too bad for a guy who can come in and still give you enough oomph in the passing game when needed. And one thing with that Mims has going for him as well is when the lights are on and when the moment's big, he's shown up time and time again on offense.
Yeah,
I mean, go back to 2 years ago in that Cincinnati's Bengal game to make that catch go into overtime. He had a couple big plays that year. He had a couple big plays this last year when the moments were big. So he rises to the occasion, and that will go for help him out. So I actually think that the trading value will be pretty similar between the two of them.
Yeah. I mean, I was late 3 to early 4.
Yeah.
Or right there. So, and when, you said what I was kind of hinting at, the value of like a late 3, that could be a 4 and a 5 or a 5 this year and a future 4, or, who knows? Maybe, you know me, I want to start stacking those 2027 picks as soon as I possibly can, because then you have the ability to be aggressive and pivot off of things, especially with where Denver's salary cap looks to be next season. So flexibility is key. And how do you have that? Picks. Most of the time, it's the picks you have that you can trade off and then add players. But also, it's also nice to have cash money. And if you have a little cash money burning a hole in your pocket, you should probably check out our friends over at Shopify.
Yeah, so when we first started the MHH merch store back in 2019, we weren't sure whether it was the right decision. Of course, everyone has thoughts like, what if no one buys anything, or what if it fails? It's never easy to overcome such uncertainty, but choosing to make the leap and launch the merch store was one of the best decisions MHH has made. When we were launching the MHH merch store, Shopify helped ease so many of those concerns with its expertise, helpful tools, and easy-to-use platform. We would not have succeeded without Shopify or your guys' support.
That's right. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names like Mattel and Magic Spoon to brands just getting started in niche brands such as MHH. Getting started with your own design studio is easy with hundreds of ready-to-use templates. Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand's style. What if people haven't heard about my brand? Shopify helps you find your customers with easy-to-run email and social media campaigns as well. And what if I get stuck? Shopify is always around to share advice with their award-winning 24/7 customer support.
It's time to turn those what ifs into cha-ching with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/milehigh. Go to shopify.com/milehigh. That's shopify.com/milehigh.
I damn near just peed myself with that cha-ching. Oh my God. Oh, I'm really glad I was not drinking coffee. Yeah, the computer would have short-circuited. Good to see Gen X. Appreciate you more coming in here this morning. Waddle will be my first pick in fantasy because it spread the ball around so much to everyone. I don't think he's going to be a first-round pick in fantasy. I think you're probably talking about a low-end one, high-end two. I'm not necessarily a fantasy guy per se. I lost both my championship games this last year, which was a bummer. But I just can't imagine. It is going to be a high-volume passing attack, but I don't think it's going to be like him getting pelted with targets, if that makes sense. Like, you have some guys who are one and they are just eating the entire offense. And also with how important touchdowns are, he's not going to necessarily be a red zone guy. Now, granted, I'll be curious to see what Sean Payton has up his sleeve, because with that amount of speed on the speed outs, I mean, you're not going to be able to decompress him vertically when you're in the red zone goal to go situation. But man, he can cover ground in a hurry, and maybe there's an area they can attack that they wouldn't expect him to get to in the red zone or goal to go situation. So it'll be interesting. Any thoughts, Eric, on his fantasy value?
Yeah, I mean, I'm such a fantasy expert. I've won my league every single year, just like I would have a perfect March Madness bracket every single year. I don't do fantasy football. I am not the guy to ask fantasy football questions. So what Nick said.
Yeah, there you go. Good job. Cha-ching. Yeah, winners and losers from the Waddle trade. I mean, we kind of obviously get at the winners. Davis Webb being a winner. Bo Nix being a huge winner as well. I would say Pat Bryant, a winner. The one I have a hard time with is Cortland Sutton. Like, he's a winner because they didn't bring in an X and he's not like immediately out the door. I would imagine his target share goes down, but he's going to have an easier assignment, I would assume, as well. So it's kind of, I would say overall more a winner than anything, but maybe he's not going to get as much of the overall volume in the passing offense this year, which is fine. Efficiency over raw count stats all day.
Yeah, I think that he's gonna come in. He's gonna be a big piece for it. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of zoned out. I was reading something else and didn't hear all of what you said, Nick. But yeah, Waddle's gonna be a big piece with this offense. Sorry, guys, I am really tired today as well.
The one I have to ask you about for winners and losers, I just can't really totally see the connection there, but some people are really like, "Oh, Waddle, man, you know what this means? Evan Ingram's going to have a huge year this year." That's like, I mean, I kind of guess there's going to be maybe more space over the middle of the field, and they're already going to be playing, dime against you anyway, and it's not going to be. I guess it'd be pretty hard to be worse or more disappointing than Evan Ingram was last season. Like, he was fine, like, right, but like, you're talking like Greg Dulcich ROI, fine, but I mean, there is going to be more space. Again, he can't block. So he doesn't bring that value to me with where the NFL is at right now. Like, David's like, oh, this means great things for Evan Ingram. Maybe it does. I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it. I think Evan Ingram on the field means worse things for Jaylen Waddle more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say Evan Ingram is a winner or a loser in this, because it can help him by, pulling that coverage off, being able to take the top off a little bit more consistently, and having that consistent deep threat there instead of the issues that they had with Troy Franklin. So it can help, but you still got to remember Evan Ingram was the third most targeted player on the Broncos offense, and he and Bo Nix very clearly didn't have the best connection. And the drop passes, the bobbled passes, those were all issues there with him in the receiving game, on top of the fact that he struggled to see the field consistently because of that inability to block that he brought. They tried it out early, but there's a reason why he got cut down to about 20 snaps a game or so, 20 to 25, pretty typical typically over the last few games of the season for him, because he just couldn't do enough as a block. It got to a point where even Adam Troutman was bringing more value to the Broncos offense because of his questionable ability to block, but at least he was a somewhat of a threat there. And he did have some good moments as a blocker. I can just count them on one hand throughout the course of the season, but I digress. That is a bigger issue with it, is what do they do at tight end with Evan Ingram? Because if they go out and they get somebody in the draft, or even between now and then, who can line up outside and offer up even a little bit more blocking out there, it wouldn't surprise me if Evan Ingram gets cut. I don't think Wadden has an overall big impact on him. Just enough of one, but it's still the issues with, again, everything with Ingram is going to come down to what they do at tight end more so than anything, and his own chemistry with Bo Nix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're Evan Ingram skeptics after last season. I know people want to, the small, fast tight end is always mostly better in theory than in reality.
And it helps that they're actually fast, and Ingram is
not as much anymore. Yeah, he doesn't move like he did before. You're right. Amy, good to see you, Amy. Yeah, good to see you. Appreciate you. Kyle comes in and says, winner, Harvey and Dobbins can't stock the box. I mean, pretty much everybody on offense you could argue is a winner besides the guys he's directly eating into their snaps, which would be Franklin and Mims. Winners also probably on the defensive side of the ball, guys who are maybe positions could have been taken with the first round pick. You talk about those linebackers, probably winners because of this. I mean, you could have had maybe a first round pick at linebacker that would have put some of those other guys in there in a tough situation. And I think also a big winner would be Owazarike and Savion Jones because interior defensive line, you don't have that first round pick. You have one come in. I mean, you guys are kicked down a level. I mean, it's just probably, it'd be pretty shocking if not. So those guys are probably also like downstream winners. So go ahead.
I don't think Denver is looking at the draft, or even when they had their first round pick was looking at the draft for defensive line.
You don't think so?
I think they're looking at a veteran,
yeah.
Somebody who can come in 1-2 years and just be that guy to start if Savion Jones isn't ready, or rotate in with Savion Jones. Because from the sound of things, they don't really want Uwazurike as a starter there opposite Zach Allen. They just kind of want to keep him in the same role that he had this last year. So Savion Jones would be going from 33 snaps this last year to over 500. That's a big jump for somebody like him, and it just seems like they want to ease that in. So I think a veteran is the way they would go. Yep. Defensively, though, the two players that I do think helps the downstream a little bit is Brandon Jones, Alex Singleton, and Justin Strnad. I think linebacker and safety were very, very much in play at 30 overall. And that's where there's expected to be plenty of options at it. So I think those players, especially Brandon Jones, who if they took a safety at 30 overall, I would have bet that Brandon Jones is getting cut come August at the latest. But without that pick, obviously, no safety, and it's probably more for a depth safety. Even with Tycen Anderson, who we haven't really talked about yet, even with him signing, he's a special teams guy, not so much a defensive guy. Devin Keys right now projected to be that third safety. They still could look at somebody upgrading that third safety spot, and then being able to take over for Brandon Jones after this year in the second or even fourth round with how the safety class is shaken up.
Very possible, Eric. We'll get to that in a second. You mentioned Tycen Anderson. I think it's pronounced that way. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but out of Toledo. I remember taking him in a lot of mock draft simulations just because he was a huge athlete. And I figured, special teams value at worst, he was going 5th, 6th round, I think, in a lot of the simulators, whatever year that was. And give me the big athlete in that point, because, again, special teams value, and that's what he brings. Really, really good combine performer, big safety, 6'2", 210, not like Cam Chancellor big, but like big. And then ran like crazy. 4.36 40-yard dash. Also did really well in the 3-cone, 6.64, 93rd percentile. Wasn't as explosive with the jumps as you'd love to see. He was in a more 54th to 70th percentile kind of range, but a good athlete and has been a really good special teams player. So Denver brings in, I know he played a lot of snaps for Cincinnati's defense, not necessarily good ones on defense, but big straight line athlete, and somebody who should help the special teams. And I wonder, again, I think he was pretty good last season in kickoff coverage and everything like that, but like this feels like a direct shot, maybe potentially at JL Skinner's role on this offense, being the big box safety type. That's a physical athlete. I mean, you need multiple special teams depth guys. Maybe because of the kickoff rules changing, you want more of the big safety body types running out there and tackling versus smaller cornerbacks or wide receivers or anything like that. But yeah, they bring him in. I don't think he's as you mentioned, Eric, a viable starter. I would hope Key is above him, but he does interest me all the same, and bringing him in, and just kind of funny to see the Broncos Twitter, announcing it. He hasn't signed yet, and then he announces the next day. So just whatever the heck's going on Broncos Twitter these days.
Yeah, I mean, he's a cable player. He's only played 65 snaps on defense over the last 2 years. 64 of them came this last year. They were fine. They weren't great by any means. Nothing to write home about, and that's part of why he's a depth safety. Probably that fourth guy, main special teamers. And one thing here too is I know and understand Devin Key had a great year on special teams, but Denver has traditionally, especially under Peyton and Vance Joseph and George Payton, their third safety doesn't play as much on special teams. And we've seen that with PJ Locke. I mean, before he became that number 3 safety, he was playing all the time on special teams, and then his snaps on special teams went down by nearly 60%. And that just typically has been how it's gone. So if Devin Key is that third safety, I'd expect him to lose some of those snap counts. And Devin Key and JL Skinner were the 2 most snap getters on special teams last year, if I remember correctly. Might be 2 of the top 3. So you still have to replace that. Tycen Anderson, he's a guy who can replace that. He is a really good special teams player. I would probably put him over JL Skinner. With that, he has the ability to be a gunner. He can be that personal protector. He can play any role on special teams on any unit, really. And he just is that versatile of an athlete. Really good player. I was trying to find my 2022 rankings to see where I had him for it, because if I remember correctly, I think both you and I were pretty high on Tycen Anderson.
I liked him for where he was going. Just a big athlete. I mean,
yeah.
It's day 3. Give me those guys all day.
I had him as
I'll find a spot for you.
Early fourth round. What I had him. I had him as an early 4th round.
Big athlete, man. Good wingspan, too. So, yeah, well, obviously it doesn't always translate to safety. I can think of was it Olafonwu, who broke everyone's mind on the combine. He's whatever in the league. You want those freak athletes. They tend to translate at defensive line. That's one where you can kind of just be like, what's the RAS? Okay. Are you an idiot? No? Okay, I'll bring you in. So long term, that tends to work out. We got Glenn coming in here saying, good morning, Eric, Nick, and Broncos country. Do you guys think we'll sign Njoku? What do you think we'll be doing the draft? I'd like to see us double dip at tight end and linebacker. Also like defensive tackle Daryl Jackson, Corleone, Dominique Orange, Keenan, Bronco, building the Broncos. This is BFB, Broncos for Breakfast, state of being Super Bowl bound. Thanks, Glenn. A lot of questions in here. Do I think the Broncos will sign Njoku? I think not after bringing in Waddle. I think they probably pivot to cheaper options / draft. And double dipping is always possible, but it's dependent on how the board falls at the end of the day. So if they like a guy, and they will double dip to some extent because they'll be undrafted free agents coming in at some of these spots, especially at tight end this year. I mean, there's going to be a lot of tight ends round 6, 7 that are, those 4th or 5th tight ends in the league that can come in. So you don't necessarily have to double dip at tight end to, put pressure on Atkins or have somebody who's pressure on loner as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think Denver's still a possibility to sign Njoku. We'll see if it actually happens. I don't think the Waddle trade takes them out of that. They're still fine cap-wise. They can still restructure a couple contracts if needed. They're still sitting right about $20 million in salary cap space. So we'll see. It depends on what Tycen Anderson, what he signed for. That will play into it, but they'll still have plenty of cap space. And under Sean Payton, this team's typically gone into the season with only about $5 to $8 million in salary cap space. They still have plenty. You don't need a whole lot for the draft. I mean, it's always overblown how much is needed for the draft. And they also have other options that they can free up salary cap space even later if they do get a safety who comes in and can replace Brandon Jones or even Ben Powers. Even though they say he's safe, maybe they do cut him. I doubt it, just based off what's been going around. They seem very content keeping their offensive line together, but it's an option. Evan Ingram is another one. Not to mention this $20 million. That's not even counting Dre Greenlaw being cut from this because his contract is still technically on the Broncos books until June 1st. So that's another $8 million. That's what they'll dip into to sign their free agent or their draft class, by the way. That's why, they'll operate with that in mind. So it's still possible. We'll see what happens. Double dipping. It's always a great idea to double dip, but in reality, it hardly ever works out. I can think of the instance on one hand off the top of my head where double dipping at the same position has worked out. I don't think any of them will beat what the New England Patriots did at tight end like a few years ago.
Longer than a few years ago. At this point, we're getting old.
A while ago. So it's always a great idea, but it all depends on how the board falls, and you don't want to overcrowd the room. And in a class like this, especially, it really depends on how that board falls. I'm in the process of putting together my big board and position rankings, and like it's not great. And it's obviously you got to get when you double dip, you try to look for a little bit of a differing skill set between the two players because you don't want them directly competing with each other for the same role. Because hey, what's a better way to just completely waste a pick? Draft two players who bring the same thing. Only one of them is going to be a viable option for you. At most, it's going to be a viable option. And when you're talking about day 3 picks where you hit on less than 15%, and that's being generous on those picks, like it's tough. I mean, Denver, with the Waddle trade, Denver did make getting that young talent to be cornerstones of this team, not necessarily starters, but just cornerstones, depth, special teams. They made it a little bit more difficult by trading away primarily that 3rd round pick and that 1st round pick. They helped it a little bit by getting that higher 4th, but they made their job a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And sometimes the double dipping doesn't necessarily they both hit, but you do hit at the position, right? That's the other, like you're kind of giving yourself a chance. So like, it's not necessarily you go into it thinking we have to double dip, but again, the talent should dictate at the end of the day. Like I think of the most recent one for me, Eric, is Packers taking Luke Musgrave, and then less than 30 picks later, taking Tucker Kraft. The talent drives that direction at the end of the day. If you evaluate a guy, I wouldn't just rule it out for a draft pick. They're not guaranteed things. I don't think it necessarily is we have to look to do that at the spot, but again, do you like the guy available when you're picking? Figure it out otherwise, right? Like just like the best guy wins. So I don't have an issue with that. Moving forward here, we won't be doing a mock draft today. We'll save that for Monday. But day 2 players that stand out to you now, the Broncos are the team with the latest first selection in the draft. Price of being good and trading up your 1st round pick. It just kind of is what it is. Everybody has either a 1st or 2nd, and Denver, 62nd overall is the latest one. So we'll see if they trade up. It's very possible with this team, going for right now, a lot of day 3 picks as well. I wouldn't be looking to get rid of 2027 picks if possible, but because they're going to need them for how the cap kind of shapes up, and let's just kind of call it what it is. The way this roster is set up right now, Eric, there's going to be turnover next season. It's going to be a different looking Bronco. This kind of feels like we're going for it this season, and then going to have to shuffle the deck a bit 2027. So I would not be looking to pull from that too much personally, if you're talking day 3 picks, whatever, to some extent. But I think everybody curious, Eric, now it's probably running back as a position. Now, if there's ever a year to be like, we have to go day 2 running back, this is probably the worst year you could possibly imagine for it. Right now, I think there are only 3 guys I imagine worthy of the discussion of being in that 40 to 100 range. I think Monday we said 2, Eric, but then I was like, wait a second, we're forgetting Coleman from Washington, who maybe you're lower on, but he's somebody who a lot of people have day 2. Obviously, Jadarian Price, a lot of people like him. He's interesting because he changes the conversation with Marvin Mims as well. And then everyone's favorite after the combine in Mike Washington. So those are the guys at running back right now that we are keeping an eye on. I don't think I'm overlooking anybody personally. I know there's some Nick Singleton fans. We'll see what people think of McGowan also, but with his background and tape being like good, but it's not like we're talking like Joe Mixon level tape at Oklahoma where it's like, oh, that's a first round pick otherwise. So those are the three that stand out to me.
Yeah, I stand by what I said on Monday. There's 3 running backs with a top 100 grade. One of them is Jeremiah Love. Jonah Coleman is very close. He is a early 4th round, but not in the top 100. Or maybe he is in the top 100 because some 4th round picks end up in top 100 for my board. I haven't fully completed that, but right now, guaranteed, it's Jadarian Price and Mike Washington Jr. I have Mike Washington as a late second. He's definitely moved up a little bit. Combine answered a lot of questions with that overall speed. You don't see it consistently on tape. The explosiveness was a big thing. And again, you don't see it there on tape, but he has it. And you could try to find ways to tap into that a little bit more. And this is a weak class. In a normal class, this is a grade that would probably have him as a late 3rd, just as an example, but he gets bumped up just because how bad this running back class is. Actually, and on that note, I put him in his grade into last year and how the running back class was last year. He would have been actually a 4th round grade for me last year, with the way that running back class is. And then Jadarian Price, obviously, he can change the math with Marvin Mims and that wide receiver because of that, with what he can do as a returner. He is very similar to RJ Harvey in terms of what they are as a runner. I think Jadarian Price brings a little bit more as a runner, but they're those guys that they like to bounce it outside. They can be a little bit questionable with their vision between the tackles. The fumbles are very concerning, especially for Price this last year. The amount of touches for Price is something that I just can't overlook. The amount of running backs that we've had taken in the top 100 with less than 10 is since 2005 or something like that. I can count them. It's one hand. It's less than a handful. One of the closest ones to go in the top 50 was Travion Henderson, who was a little bit over 10 in total touches or 10 touches per game average in his career. But Price, the lack of work as a receiver is concerning. I don't think he's overly showed the traits that you look for to do it. Obviously, maybe we can see maybe a team runs him through the gauntlet, similar to what Denver did with RJ Harvey last year. They really saw something in him when they worked him out at the pro day and at the combine, but he doesn't bring anything as a pass blocker. The receiving's questionable. So I have a little bit of some questions there, but Mike Washington, I think, is the guy that I think Denver would be looking at the most out of the group.
Yeah. I know some people also like Emmett Johnson from Nebraska. I think he's just not necessarily explosive enough for that. I'm thinking more round 4 for him as well. It's just not a good class for that. Ernie May says hello. Also, he's over on YouTube. Good to see you. Appreciate you coming in and saying hello. Always good to hear from you, Ernie. The other spots, Eric, that stand out, of course, linebacker. A lot of people will be looking for linebacker, that day 2 slot. We'll see. At pick 62, I think Jacob Rodriguez is in play. When people are mocking him at 30, that kind of made me, I don't know. But 62, I think that's in play after his combine. Jake Galladay is in play there. Maybe Josiah Trotter as well. I wish he was a little, bigger or faster, but you're talking end of round 2. And Anthony Hill also, who I know there's some discrepancy in his view, given his play. I think PFF has him like a borderline top 100 pick. Some people have talked about him being, one of the first picks round 2. All it takes is one team. That's what's beauty in the eye on the beholder for NFL draft evaluation. But there is a handful of linebackers that make sense there.
Yeah, and with Hill, I think one of the NFLN guys had him recently in their top 30. I want to say it was at 28 for them in a mock draft or something. But yeah, the view for him is all over. And with these linebackers, it's going to be, it's what do you want out of them, right? So on my big board, I've kind of done things a little bit differently. I've broken down positions by it. And it's you mentioned Jacob Rodriguez. Well, he's in one group of linebackers. You mentioned Josiah Trotter. He's in another group. You had mentioned Jake Golday. He's in another group, and same group as Anthony Hill with what they bring. So all those guys are options. And another option here that we should talk about, I know you're going to push back on this, CJ Allen. There's a lot coming out about him falling down a little bit, dealing with an injury, had a scope done on his knee. There's still lingering concerns about that. Apparently, there were the medical checks at the combine were not great beyond that knee scope.
Okay.
Just did the pro day, did all right in the drills, but showed some issues. They're really coming. It's, as I said months ago, it's starting to really hit the main point of conversation that he's not a modern linebacker with his coverage ability. He's a 2-down run defender at linebacker that works best between the tackles, struggles a little bit more sideline to sideline. So how much more can you get? He's a bright kid. There's no one questioning his football intelligence, his ability to come in and be the play caller, but there's a lot more conversations going on right now about him potentially dropping because of medicals and his overall play in terms of being a modern NFL linebacker.
Yeah. It will be interesting to see what happens with Allen. It's such a neck up position still at the end of the day. I think somebody day 2 will bring him in if he's got the right mentality. He's still so young as well, but the medicals change things a lot, obviously. I mean, the long story short, everything is on the table pretty much for the Broncos with their single day 2 pick. But I still think you want to be chasing value at the end of the day, and also trying to look ahead where what are positions that we will have gaping holes this upcoming season. And I come back to it again, Eric. I mean, we've talked about safety being one. Safety is an interesting spot here. We love our guy, Halsey, out of LSU. I just want him on the field for his aesthetics because he is so yoked. I just want to see that guy. Kind of like he's giving TJ Ward for me. Sometimes he's bigger, but like he is so freaking jacked out there and a pretty good athlete. So I love Halsey there. Day 2, we'll see what happens with him. Obviously, there's going to be some talk about tight end. At the end of the day, tight end's weird. But maybe Max Clare. I have a hard time with Eli Stowers unless you're talking he's like little Jordan Humphrey, Alan Lazard type. Like he's a big enough athlete. Maybe there's some value there, but let's not pretend he's going to help you in line. Like he's a worse blocker than Evan Ingram is. And that's, it's just, but he's a good athlete in pick 62. I mean, you're looking for difference makers. He could be somebody who stands out. Maybe you're talking Zachariah Branch there. I think that's a little early, but I know the consensus board has him mid to late round 2. But wide receiver is still interesting to me. You might see a guy traded, but like there was the talk before the combine, during the combine, the Broncos loved Chris Bell. Maybe his medicals push him down and you redshirt him a year and then you have a first round pick essentially coming in a year after. I mean, take the talent at the end of the day, especially at a value position. And the other one that's really interesting, everybody's going to get mad. But cornerback, I mean, you could trade McMillan, you could trade Moss. We'll see what happens. Then you're not paying both those guys, maybe neither of them, and you have a gaping hole in your defense the upcoming season. So I'm looking at, it really depends on what they think about Jahdae Barron at the end of the day. But Chris Johnson, San Diego State, he's probably going to go one of the first 15 picks round 2, but he's interesting. I really like Scott out of Miami. He's an unbelievable slot player. Stukes, you've heard me talk about him a lot. He's a safety slot who I love as well. Really, really talented player. So, I mean, again, everything is on the board here. I didn't even talk about interior offensive line yet. You're talking about Dunker. You're talking about your guy, Ratledge. They're in play at 62.
Yeah, I mean, it's, as you said, everything's a viable option for the Broncos here at 62. And that's the way it needs to be. When you're picking 62 with your first pick, everything has to be on the table. You can't pigeonhole yourself into any one position because you have no idea how the board's going to be there. I would be very surprised if the Broncos don't have 1 or 2 players at just about every position except for maybe quarterback. Well, I would say except for quarterback. No, maybe about it. That are on their board there as options at 62. I mean, just going into it, offensive tackle, you have the contracts and age of Garrett Bowles and Mike McGlinchey that Denver can get out of. You mentioned the salary cap space issues for next year. They're sitting with less salary cap space right now projected next year than they currently have. Obviously, they can roll some over of what they don't spend, but also we don't know what the salary cap is going to be. There's been some talk that salary cap can jump at $30 million next year already. Because the expectation is within 4 years, it's going to be over. It's going to hit the next 100 million, right? So we're going to break, what is it? 400 million because it's over 3 now, right? So that's kind of the expectation with the next 3 or 4 years to break that. So tackle, interior offensive line, Ben Powers is in the last year of his deal. You can get somebody in there with that. Defensive line, DJ Jones, Malcolm Roach, with their contracts, you can look at getting somebody a little bit bigger on the inside, as well as getting a true big two-gap run defender that Sean Payton's been looking for since he's come to Denver and just hasn't been able to land. Linebacker, Singleton, I mean, he's probably here for 2 years, but you can work on getting somebody else in there. Cornerback, I mean, you mentioned it, Moss, McMillan, what's the status of them going forward? They're both in the final and on 1-year deals, basically. Guys, see what's going to happen. Unlikely they keep both. It's going to be tough to keep both of them because you have Patrick Surtain now, who's probably going to be asking for a new contract here, maybe next year, if not the year after that. So you got to factor that into your decision making. Safety with Brandon Jones needing maybe getting somebody to compete with Devin Key as third safety. Wide receiver, getting another weapon in there. I think it's a little bit less likely, but you never know. That's a valuable position. And with Pat Bryant with his concussion history, having 2 in less than a month, as well as in the hamstring injury in the playoffs, maybe you look at getting another bigger guy in there with that. Maybe you're still looking at a very talented route runner to come in and mix it up. Tight end, that's a very obvious one. Running back's a very obvious one. Like every single position makes a lot of sense for the Broncos. And as much as I'm not a fan of him, Zachariah Branch, that you mentioned, Mims specifically, smaller guy, returner, somebody who can come in and replace that. If you're not looking at keeping Marvin Mims around, well, there you go. You can go get another returner. And even then, you need another returner in this day and age of kick returns to go to pair with Marvin Mims to help make him a little bit more dangerous as well.
We do want to get the super chat, but Bronco for Life asks, why not quarterback stids ain't it for a backup? You're probably not using a 2nd-round pick on a guy when you have hopefully 8 years of your quarterback fixed. Now, granted, if there's it would take such a rare circumstance for that to ever happen. I don't even think it's worth discussing. But you're looking at quarterback, you're talking round 5, probably at the earliest for the Broncos. Perry West asks about late round picks. I mean, again, at this point, what is a late round pick? We know like where the obviously 6, 7s late round guys, but all it takes is one team, right? A guy that we like that's being mocked 6, 7 could end up being a late round 3 pick. I mean, I remember a year ago, I was like, oh, Isaac T-Slaw, 5th round, and he ends up being one of the first picks round 3, so it's just all it takes is one.
On the
flip
side of that, we have the guys that we like that go later. Speaking of last year, Jackson Hawes, I think both you and I talked about him as a 4th round guy, went 5th round.
Yep. I'm just going to look at the consensus big board and some guys who kind of stand out to me. I can't get over him, Eric. Oscar Delp and Eli Raridan. Obviously, the medicals are big for them, but for guys that are being projected late 4th round to 5th round on that consensus big board, 120 to 170 range, give me the guys who are tested well, that are big athletes and show a propensity to block. Nate Borkerker is down there as well. He not the athlete that those two tested as. I'm really shocked about Eli Raridan's combine. I mean, what are you, 4'6"? I mean, for his size, that's pretty damn impressive. Somebody had a really good combine that I think could be a great player is Caleb Proctor, the Southeast Louisiana defensive lineman. He might end up going in the top 100 though. You never know. There's not many of those 3 technique guys out there, but he's interesting to me. I really think that, Bo Stevens, left guard, could come in and maybe be somebody that's interesting for the Broncos. Caleb Elams-Orr at linebacker stands out to me, like Marlon Klein at tight end. He's interesting. Just scrolling down, guys who kind of just stand out to be Eric McAllister, wide receiver at TCU, also going back-to-back TCU. I think he does have some background issues. Kendrick Law at Kentucky. CJ Daniels from Miami at 186. I mean, that to me is pretty good value. Adam Randall, running back out of Clemson, 192 on the consensus big board. I like him a good bit. You talk about, late round quarterbacks, Sawyer Robertson at 202. He stands out to me. Kalen Wheatgen, Iowa returner at 211. I like him a good bit that low. Tyron Montgomery, John Carroll, former basketball player. Le'Veon Moss at 221, that low. That makes some sense to me. Bishop Fitzgerald, safety at USC. We obviously have the defensive back coach from USC here now, so he stands out. Daquan Wright out of Ole Miss at 241. I mean, with his testing and body type, that's somebody who I'd love to have in the room at 241's really low, Eric. So plenty of guys to get into that. Just like scrolling down, stand out to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that's of guys there. I mean, there's some guys that you didn't even mention.
Of course,
some guys that you did. I mean, Oscar Delp, there's something with Georgia this year. A lot of Georgia players had a lot of concerning stuff come up at the medicals. Oscar Delp was one. Broken foot fracture, hairline fracture, whatever it was, is one of them. But I had somebody tell me that he looks like he was used and abused quite literally and just never taken to the hospital for it. So there's a lot of concerns about him. We'll see. Obviously, it takes one team. Eli Raridan, he's another guy. Nate Borkircher, tight end, another guy that you mentioned.
But Ole Miss tight end, being that low, I mean, I think he's 5th round viable, and they have him like almost undrafted.
Daquan Wright? That's the
Yeah.
Ole Miss one. Yeah, he's not good. He's not a very good player.
I hate that Ole Miss offense, man.
Yeah, that makes it tough. But you also have Josh Cuevas. He's kind of a similar mold. I think if you want to upgrade your big slot tight end in terms of blocking, I think Cuevas is actually pretty good. I don't think he's an inline blocker by any means, but he can block in the slot. Will Kasmerick, he's a really good blocker. DJ Rogers out of TCU, he's a very, very capable blocker as well. Kasmerick and Rogers are probably up there in the top 6-7 blockers in this class at the position. If you want people to directly compete with Nate Atkins, Riley Nowakowski, Max Bredesen out of Michigan, Matthew Hibner, those are all options. If you want some tackles is a little bit tough, but you have some tackle guard guys that I think are kind of interesting. Keegan Trost, JC Davis. Davis is probably more 4th, 5th. Keegan Trost, I've seen him all over the place. I've seen people talking about him as a 3rd round. I think it was Charles Davis during the combine who mentioned him as a 3rd round player. And then you have Daniel Jeremiah just after that talking about him. Was like, well, I've heard a lot of 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th round talk with Keegan Trost. His views are all over the place. Interior offensive line, you have Fabechi Wiwu out of Oklahoma. He's a fun player. I don't think Denver's the best fit for him personally. Arma-J Reed Adams, big Texas A&M dude. I really do like his tape as a possible 4th, 5th, 6th round player. Defensively, if you're looking for a big body inside, Tim Keenan, he's a pure 2-down run defender, but he's got such heavy hands. If you're looking for a rare body type, Xavier Harris out of Ole Miss, he's like 6'6", has some of the longest arms in this class. Very talented athlete. Tyler Onyedem, he's a Don Frankenmeyer's option to replace him. James Thompson out of Illinois, he's another one of those types. I mean, I can keep going on and on. There's a lot of talent in those guys that obviously there's risk hitting on guys that low, especially with this being a bad class, but there are options. Eric Gentry, if you want to really take a shot on a complete flyer at linebacker, a guy who has just he's a unicorn at linebacker at 6'6" with his length, and try to see if you can, then do it. This is the year to take a shot on somebody like that.
Yep. And Troy Kim's with the super chat. We did talk about it for the first 20 minutes of the show. But Troy, a $9.99 super chat. I mean, no, I'm just kidding. Eric wasn't looking at us, just flashing, we're good. If you covered this, ignore. How does Waddle help not only the other receivers, but tight ends, running backs make the job easier? I mean, we didn't talk about it for offensive line. That's one spot where it could be both, right? You might have some longer developing plays still where you're trying to deep over, right? And they got to hold up. Now, hopefully that's paired with play action to give them another, blip of time. But you're hoping that it creates better run options, wider boxes, and maybe also some of those screens start to work as well. Denver, I mean, there's still if you look at it now, EPA is a flawed stat. Every stat in football is a flawed stat. But the screens were more effective per EPA per play than runs were. But that's just kind of, why is that, Eric? It's because you're not going to have the negative run stuffs. Like a 2-yard loss on a run hurts more than an incompletion. And also you're probably still more likely to hit an explosive, all the same, but it doesn't manipulate the defense as much. Still, the point at the end of the day is the point is to score points, but to get explosives. And the run game can help with that by forcing the defense into heavier boxes and accounting for it. So unless you're just willing to, get gut punched to death, body blow to death. But it should help everybody on offense. You added talent, you added a playmaker, you added somebody who can hopefully flip the field and change the math. And a really good route runner should help you in the quick game. should help you down the field. So yeah, he helps everybody. Thank you, Troy, so much for the $9.99. We do got to get out of here. I know Eric's probably going to get in trouble. I hear my kid getting up right now too, so we got to get moving.
Yeah. Just got to do the handoff with the kids sleeping. Wife's got to leave for work. So we do got to get out here in a few minutes, but yeah, Waddle, he's going to help everybody. As Nick said, obviously some more than others. I think the one who is outside of Bo Nix, the one who benefits the most is Cortland Sutton. He's going to pull that safety attention away from Cortland Sutton as much as he had last year. I mean, you can turn on any game, any play, and you can basically see the defense shading their safeties over to the side of the field that Sutton's on, just because they had no respect for any other of the Broncos receivers. And honestly, kind of rightfully so. I mean, Troy Franklin, he did have those big moments, but he, as Nick said, for guys over 100 targets, he was one of the least effective, least efficient. And now you get a guy who's a great number two. There's a wonderful story from a guy who played with him. I can't remember the player's name, in Miami, talking about Waddle and his mentality and not being a diva or anything like that, and being that number two guy when he can actually demand more. So that's a great story for Waddle and the character that he has, the football character he has. But he's going to help everybody and just with what he can do with the coverages, as well as just the pure route running and skill that he brings, just being able to be a threat for opposing defenses and forcing them to change how they're playing the Broncos offense.
Absolutely. And I love that he can be uncovered because you have Sutton available as well. And there's just a schematic advantage you have when you actually have that true X out there that can do the stuff that Sutton does. Coach Chris, $20, said, sorry, I missed you guys lately. Super busy with work. I know, man. I've been working 50, 60 hours since the Super Bowl. Eric too, just different. But just know I missed everyone. Well, we missed you too, Coach Chris. Thank you so much. Super chat givers, Johnny, Perry, good to see you. Troy as well. And then Coach Chris coming in here. Make sure you guys are following Eric and I on Twitter. Eric's at Eric Trickle. I'm at Nick Kendall MHH. We're also at Mile High Huddle. Of course, if you guys can follow us also, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as the ticker says there underneath, please subscribe, like, and share. Make sure you guys are checking out our fine friends over at Shopify as well as Underdog. We will see you all again next Monday. Another mock draft time. Maybe the Broncos will get some more picks between now and then. We'll see what happens. But very excited to have Waddle in here in this offense and changes the complexion. So it should be a lot of fun. I saw some people say they got a Ferrari. I don't know if they got a Ferrari necessarily, Eric. I mean, that's one of those top 5 guys. But they got a crotch rocket. You know, like one of those like little tiny like motorcycle bikes that bring some speed and some fun and can zip around traffic. So Waddle will be a lot of fun. Man, makes me want to get Madden again, just with the speed out there as well. I mean, we're going to run 4 verts until the cows come home. So everyone have a great day, great weekend. We'll see what comes up next. Go Broncos.